Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Term for Two.
This is Rob.
And this is Anthony. And in this episode, we are finally diving into the Inklands with the release of Set 3 of Lorcana on the horizon.
Yes. I'm
We
so
are
excited.
getting very excited, and we are getting very ready to create some new decks, have some new decks, and just play a bunch new cards.
It's very exciting. I have been waiting for this. It's just I get excited like this with most card games. It's like the week before it comes out. But this is different. This is a I don't know. It's doesn't have words right now, but I'm very excited to just get some new ideas, some new ways to play, and more importantly, you know what I'm excited about? 16. This is episode 16, Ant. We have been doing this for 4 months.
4 long months, yeah.
Straight. We have not missed one, despite the fact that we've started some of them late. Oh, very late.
Hopefully, with everything slowing down, other than everything's ramping up for Lorcana, but I think everything's slowing down at least in both of our lives. Where hopefully we should be back to recording together next week.
That'd be neat.
But with that, we can get right into Stonk review. All right, so for the first time in a long time, I get to talk about Set 1 this week. Shout out to our good friend Dom, who got Rob his Alice Enchanted finally. And Rob was probably the most excited I've ever seen him.
Really? The most excited you've ever seen me?
I don't think I've seen you more excited other than when you played 7 Lost Box in a row.
Oh, that was true excitement. I can't thank you enough, Dom. I still owe you cards. That card is beautiful, and I think the tiny little plastic box that he put it in, that little protective case.
Yeah, the one
that really just added to the presentation of that card. It's a gorgeous card. It could have been gorgeous just in a sleeve, but in that tiny little box, it was like a piece of jewelry. It was fantastic. I love it so much, and I'm looking at it, and I love it. Anyway, yes, you can talk about Set 1.
So for Set 1, not really much has changed as much as I kind of thought it would. Rapunzel and Maleficent are still 34 and 31 respectively. I mean, they're just blanket good cards.
Very good.
I don't think anything's making them more effective than they are, which isn't a bad thing. They're already super
good
effective.
Enough, right?
They're still going to combo well with a lot of cards. There's just nothing like with Mother Gothel and Rapunzel. What made that made Rapunzel just so much better. Like,
right.
There's nothing that's super huge, but these cards are still great. They'll still be played as, at least most decks will still have 4 of.
Yeah.
For if it works like that, which most of them do. Aside from that, A Whole New World went up to 12, which a lot of the cards that went up, we will talk about why we think they're going up when we get to cooking time.
Yeah. I want to tell you, I got my last 3 Whole New Worlds foil for $11 each just a week ago.
So you got ahead on that one.
I guess I didn't know. As much as I hate that card, I wanted it shiny if I have to run it.
And then Hades dropped by a couple dollars. It's very interesting. I still think that's a good card that'll get played. And then Belle's at 26, which is still right. That was at 10 a month ago probably now, and I mean that's insane that it went up. And I get why it stayed up so long, but that's still crazy. And we're obviously, people are still finding things out. I think the next month will be it'll be a lot of fluctuation as people find new things out and break things more open. Same kind of thing happens with Set 2 and with really every card game. But since you're covering it this week, what do you got in Set 2 for me?
So Set 2, actually most of the enchanteds have gone down. Just for you, I will tell you the Hercules is currently market price of $112 because I know you're very concerned about that.
Thank you. I was very concerned.
Other than that, Cinderella has gone up, which is interesting because who knows what role she's going to play in this next meta. But the Green Beast went up pretty decently, about $40. Other than that, everything else has gone down a little bit. So if you're interested in getting Set 2 enchanteds, you might want to think about pulling that trigger pretty soon because I anticipate all prices going up in the future as they run out of product. I don't think they're printing any more of it, so eventually these things are going to be some more hot commodities. I'm not saying they wouldn't do a reprint set or something like that in the future, but if you want the OGs, you're going to have to start ponying up dough. But Tragic Beast, it's gone up a little bit, which is great. I love that keeps rising. But coming in a very crazy second place now is Relentless Beast, the green one that was $8 for so long. It is now 30, and I am quite interested. And I think I have cracked the code on why that card is expensive, and I will talk about that as well in cooking time. My kitten face Mufasa is at 17. Other than that, I'm not seeing any really big moves in the lower end cards. There's a general trend of everything going up a tiny bit. And again, I think that is due to the function of slowly but surely dwindling supply. So if you want to start getting things on that, get it. Maybe they'll print more and I'll be wrong. But
Yeah.
the prices are fine right now. And if you want to get some set 2 stuff, I would snag it while you can.
My baby Scar has gone down. Actually, that's the only thing I noticed is
$5.
Scar is $5, which I mean,
You love that card.
I love that card, but it's good. Same with a lot of. I think most of those are a little on the downslope. So like Fairy Godmother, I think we think will be good.
Yeah.
Same with I think Scars can only get better. Tremaine's at $4 is really good.
Yes. I feel bad trading those away at $4. It's just such a good card.
But the Enchanted at 105, if you really like Tremaine and you like that Enchanted, doesn't do a lot for me, but if you really like it.
I don't really like the Enchanted, but I love Tremaine in the game, so I'm tempted to get it just because it's an Enchanted version of a playable.
And because it's shiny.
It is shiny. I do love shiny cardboard.
Yeah, and with set 3, again, we'll just put out that warning. Please don't buy cards early.
Unless you, I mean, do buy cards early. Snatch them up. I don't care. I will just wait a little while.
Yeah.
The pre-release pricing is a thing in all games. The set is just coming out, so you can start trickling. I'm not going to go on to set 3 because I'm sure the Enchanteds are up, I've managed to avoid most of them. So I'm going to avoid that, but I know that you can buy stuff on there. A friend of mine was talking about other couple of websites that had singles, so people are starting to open it. But it is going to be exorbitantly expensive right now, so just let it chill.
Yeah.
Open your own packs and see what you get. This is the only time that I like opening packs when a set comes out, because you're just getting product without spending a bunch of money, and you can just proxy things while you're practicing or whatever.
Yeah, and I will admit, I think it's nice to see, just looking at some of these prices, aside from like the purple Shift Jafar and a lot of the legendary super expensive right now, but like it's nice to see some of the cards are already going down that are rares and silver rares. I mean, some of them are because they're in the starter deck, but everything will go down. You have to give it a little bit of time, but things will go down. So don't rush if you're super worried. If you don't have the money, don't waste the money.
I mean, that's true. Don't even buy regular packs at that point if you can't afford them, but it's pretty readily available. If you are planning on getting boxes of Into the Inklands, the best way to do it is from our friends at East Coast Collectibles.
They're a new game store in our area, and the owner, Mike, he caters his business to the players like me and Rob. He has the lowest prices possible for most of his product.
Yes.
And not only do they have an excellent selection of sports cards, they also have stuff like other TCGs like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon and even Final Fantasy. He also has all manner of Lorcana product. He has deck boxes, mats, sleeves, troves, everything you could think of.
He has the absolute best prices on boxes of Into the Inklands. Seriously, I verified it. I went over to eastcoastcollect.com. It's on page 4, top left corner, and their products are right there. And if you want to buy a box, it's $125.
And on top of that, if you use our promo code TURN4 at checkout or even in person, you'll get an extra 10% off of that.
So he's actively taking orders for Inklands. I would head right over to eastcoastcollect.com. Be sure to put in our promo code TURN4. That's TURNFOR, the number 2, for all your favorite Lorcana products at your new favorite price.
And with that, we can get right into meta-analysis.
So since there's a ton of new cards and a ton of new decks that people are going to be working on, I figured for meta-analysis this week, we would just do a quick review of what the set 2 meta effectively evolved as. This isn't obviously perfectly accurate, but it's just what I was seeing at my locals and what I was seeing more of the quote-unquote competitive scene, because it really wasn't, we weren't getting that number of decks really on ink decks that I'm aware of early on. But either way, I just wanted to say that really the winner seemingly at the end of set 1 was the Ruby Sapphire ramp, and Steel Song. So both of those were alive going into set 2. And immediately Ruby Sapphire had that popsicle build. You tried it.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of really quick ramp and some draw and then just smashy kill spells. And everybody was like, oh, that's it, meta solved. And which I thought was funny because I heard 2 different people say that. And it was kind of hot out of the gates, but really cooled off. Steel Song caught up after that with the flutes. There was like, what, 20 songs, 16 songs, and just a ton of flute. And that was what got the sort of next wave of Steel Song in. There was some Emerald decks that I saw for a little while. I had an Emerald Steel deck that I did see a couple other people with Relentless Beast at the time. And there was the Sapphire Emerald build with all the sort of ramp and 5-cost character build. But those were both very short-lived.
A couple of our locals I know had that deck for a while.
Yes, both of those I saw a decent amount at locals. Then right after that was everybody's favorite time of the meta, and that was the rise of Ruby Amethyst. And it was super dominant for the rest of the meta.
Yeah, I was going to say up until now.
But more importantly, it was what everybody was running for a short time. I had 2 different lists. I had the bounce build and I had the sort of aggro Aladdin build that I was playing with.
Yeah.
But that was the cool kid on the block for a while, and then everybody, I can't say is the correct word, but lots of people became sick of it, and so they started to come up with other decks to combat it. There was the Amethyst Amber Hyper Aggro that came at that point with your Pinocchios, the bounce package, that whole thing where you just turning dudes sideways the entire time.
Yeah.
And it sort of would outpace them, so you would be at 18 lore when they finally can be prepared. All you got to do is have a Lilo survive. Was pretty interesting. Soon thereafter was the Emerald Steel discard deck. That was Bucky and all of those Floodborn characters coming in. And there's a couple different variations of that, but it was pretty much just low to the ground Bucky, Sad Beast, just quick card draw, kill spells in the form of like grab your swords and then just discard. And it's hard to play be prepared when it's not in your hand. So
yeah,
that was a fun kind of combat deck that I started one of those decks as well. It was a lot of fun. And then I turned right over to Mufasa Murder Machine. That was the Amber Ruby. I would call it Amber Ruby. And that was big for a long time. Lots of people ran that, lots of success, even till the end of the meta for that season. Lots of Mufasa decks, different kind of builds, different ways. Then it was Steel Sapphire, really, with Cogsworth.
Yeah, you had a build of that, I know.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I just love Sapphire, and it's the only time I've ever liked playing a whole new world. just throw something away with a Fishbone Quill, put another one in with Bell. You could just like ink 4 things in a turn. It was silly. So that's why I ended up getting the last couple of foils at that cheap price. Thankfully, I was playing that deck or I wouldn't have scooped those up where they're inexpensive.
Yeah.
And then I will just give a little shout out to Amber Emerald Lemon Lion, because that was another kind of iteration of a Mufasa deck. But that was sort of what I saw were the kind of big players a lot of the time. There was I wouldn't even say a triangle, because what's a straight line that goes down into that? It's a triangle on a stick, really, with an upside down stick, and Ruby Amethyst is the top. But I am excited. It's still going to be a good deck. It only got better, I think, as all these cards came out, and we can talk about that in a soon time. But I think it is time for some other things to shine and scare it. And unfortunately, you got to remember that Be Prepared doesn't destroy locations. So you can start getting lore from locations, and they can just pop all your guys, but they're still behind after paying 7. So there might be some ways around it now. I'm excited. You know what that makes it, Ant? It's cooking time!
All right, so this week for our cooking time challenge, we're going to do a little bit of a simpler one. And that simple cooking time challenge is just going to be to build a deck.
Yes, we're going to build our first deck as quickly as possible. We will make proxies if necessary, but whatever we're just leaning towards something we wanted to try, we're going to make that deck and just have our normal 6 out of 10 victory condition and just dive into it. We're just keeping it easy because there's plenty of time to do silly ones. I'm excited for our storage challenge, which is going to come up soon, but just get in there and sink our teeth in. I think it's a fair.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I don't know. My original thought was just to do another lemon lime deck because that's what I've done at the beginning of every set, but maybe I'll switch it up to throw you off a little bit since that's what you might be expecting. But
I would be possibly expecting that.
I think it also depends on what I open. If I get an enchanted of a certain card, then I might just have to play that color.
I don't disagree with that thought process either. I have a couple decks that I'm thinking about, and we will be diving deep into cooking time over the next couple of weeks because there are plenty of meals to be made. But to keep it simple for now, we're just going to talk about what we were alluding to earlier in Stonk Review, where why are certain cards going up very fast in value? And the first thing you had identified, Ant, was Whole New World, correct?
Yes, correct.
And tell the folks at home why the heck that card is now $12 base.
That card is $12 base because of 7-cost Jafar Striking Illusionist, who has evasive, but more importantly, during your turn while this character is exerted, whenever you draw a card, you gain 1 lore. And Whole New World lets you draw 7 cards, which means you could be at 13 lore and go, Whole New World, I win the game.
It is silly, this combination. They had to have seen this coming. It's still a 7 cost you have to get out. It's a shift 5, so you can get it out on turn 5. And if you're shifting it, you can sing it that turn. So
yeah,
that's a little disgusting. And also was my original first deck because I love, with a big fat LOVE, the art on this card. It is just Snaky Boy, and it is awesome. Unfortunately, it's my chase rare because I'm sure it's going to be expensive. But I love everything there is about this card. I love the things that it can shift onto. There's a bunch of little Jafars you can shift onto. It is so good. I'm so excited about it. I'm hoping the deck is too slow.
Market price is already $60.
Yeah, that's fake market price, but yeah, this will be a solid $30 card, I bet. 100%. Because there's so many ways to draw cards. Even if you just play Friends on the Other Side, gaining 2 lore while drawing 2 cards. I don't know why they printed this card. It's probably at some point going to get banned because it's going to be even more broken.
And when your opponent decides to go, I'm going to Whole New World you. Okay, thanks for the 7 lore. Well, it's not my turn.
It turns off your opponent's even willingness to play that card. It's a 4/5. Like, it's a solid body too. It's evasive. Like, it's got a lot of good keywords. That's just going to leave it sticky on the board and doing stupid things. But I can only, crap on it so much because I love it and we'll be making a deck with it.
Yeah.
So the other card we were talking about was Beast, which took a meteoric rise from 5 to 30. And I used my big brain and figured this out. I promise you, the Ant was there. We just were like, why could this possibly be? And I just started looking at cards and getting ideas. And I figured it out. And you're not going to like it. So I hope this isn't the first time you guys... I hope this is the first time you guys are hearing this and that you don't copy it. But if you have 6-cost Beast, Relentless, whenever an opposing character is damaged, you may ready this character. It does not have the caveat that you can't quest, so you can always just keep questing with him. So that's your 6-cost questing boy. If you have Sheriff of Nottingham in play as well, he says, whenever you discard a card, you may deal 1 damage to chosen opposing character. You may see where this is going. Finally, the big bullet point card that you have to put together in this 3-card insane combo is the location, the Bayou Mysterious Swamp. Whenever a character quests while here, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me take you one step through the loop. You quest with Beast Relentless while he is on the Bayou Mysterious Swamp. Doing so, you gain 2 lore, and you draw a card, and then you discard a card. But because you have Sheriff of Nottingham in play, you deal 1 damage when you discard a card. So you deal 1 damage to your opposing character. You would then activate the beast because something got damaged, where you would turn it for 2. And then with the Bayou, draw a card and then discard a card. And the Sheriff of Nottingham will deal a damage. I took you through 2 loops. I lied. That is an infinite loop as long as your opponent has things to deal damage to. You win the game.
And if you let them build up enough stuff on board, they're probably not going to. I mean, they might see it coming, but if you let them build enough stuff on board, I mean, they're screwed.
And there's ways to protect a lot of these cards in these colors. It's and so this will be most likely my first deck because what does Beast continually do? Turn for 2.
And we love that. This might be the official turn for 2 deck.
I've already pretty much built it. I'm excited to make some tweaks to it and see what works and see what doesn't work. But either way, there are 4 cards. There are 12 total and that are not going anywhere. And well, actually, let's solidify. There's 4 Morph and 4 Emo Beast as well, because playing Emo Beast on turn 3 feels nice. So long story short, that is a little taste of cooking time for you folks, because I am cooking as we speak. The spatulas are flying around, the heat is on, and ideas are flowing. And a lot of those ideas revolve around the new card type locations. There are a total of 18 of them, 3 of each color. And for one of our segments today, we just wanted to quickly go over each of them and kind of give our thoughts on them. I know it's too early to figure out really the power or how good they're going to be, but I'm excited about them and I want to try pretty much all of them. So, and I'll start us off with Neverland. I'll just do Amber, and
yeah,
we'll do it that way. We can talk through it.
Go by color.
So, Neverland Mermaid Lagoon. It is a 1-cost 1/4. So when we're saying 1/4s when it comes to locations, it is 1 is the cost to move there, and 4 is the willpower. It gives you 1 passive lore. So it is a 1-cost passive lore. It is the true. All right, is this a worthwhile card? I don't know if these 1/4s are worth it. I don't know well enough at all because I haven't used them. But I don't know. What is your opinion on the 1/4s, the 1-cost 1/4s? I think there's 3 or 4 of them.
I think I haven't looked fully at the list. I assume they're mostly going to be used for the starter decks, not that there is a starter deck of every color. I think they're still great for new players learning how locations work. And I don't think it's a terrible thing for that. But aside from that, I don't see much reason. I mean, I know Amber's got a 1/4, Amethyst has a 1/6. Like, they're all different between 1/4 and 1/6. I just don't think it's amazing to play because most of the time there's blanket good things that are better about the other ones. But at least in Amber's case, it is the only inkable one. So if your deck really is a problem with the uninkables and you want to use locations for a specific reason, then it's not terrible. But aside from that, I don't think any of the basic 1/4, 1/6 ones are that great.
So my opinion on the 1-cost 1/4s are that you get to just put them down turn 1, and your opponent is going to have to swing into it immediately. Otherwise, you're just from the gate just passively gaining lore. So I think for 1, gaining what is probably going to get at least 2 lore is not bad.
Yeah.
So I'm on the fence of whether or not it's going to be good, because then once it's destroyed, you haven't established anything, and they're still swinging with a character, but you gained a couple of lore. So I don't know if the trade-off is worth it.
One thing I am noticing, just because I'm using my phone to look at these sideways, it looks like in the back of this art, the Jolly Rogers flying in the background, which is really cool.
Oh yeah. It's not. Oh, it is flying in the background. You're right.
And then there's Skull Rock back there as well.
Good eyes. So now I gotta zoom in on all these suckers. So the next one is Pride Lands, Pride Rock. It is a 2/7. We are all connected. Characters get 2 willpower while here, and Lion Home. If you have a prince or king character here, you pay 1 less to play characters. So that
which
is
is a
very interesting.
great ability because it doesn't say it only counts once. So if you put 2 or 3
Yeah.
princes there, along with I think that combos with the Duke.
You'd have to
also
have
give
multiple
them
pride lands with a prince or king on them each in order to get a stack of that. You can't just
Oh,
put
okay.
4 kings on it and pay 4 less. It's just if you have one or the other, you just get to pay 1 less. But still paying 1 less for everything is pretty good. And it's a 7 and gives you, it does, I did not mention it gives a passive lore as well. So I think it's interesting. Uninkable, so that's the downside. But actually, most of them are inkable, so that is not a common thing.
Yeah.
And the other amber is Tiana's Palace Jazz Restaurant. I could not read that. 3 cost uninkable, 2/8. That also has a passive lore. Characters can't be challenged while here. That is very powerful. It's has an 8 butt, so it's going to be swung into a couple of times to take it out. So if you really, really want to protect something, that might be a way to do it. The downside, and one of the things that I think is the iffy question about locations in general, is you have to pay 2. So whatever you're putting there, you had to pay for it and then pay 2 to put it there, and then exert it or do whatever it is that you're going to do that you don't want it to get challenged. Seems expensive, but again, you're getting a passive lore and you're protecting things, so maybe good.
I really like this one. I think this one's going to be played a little bit. I also just took a look. These 2, and then there's 2 in amber and 2 in red. Those are the only uninkable ones, or 2 in ruby. Sorry.
Yeah, 2 ruby and 2 amber. Everything else is, all the rest are inkable.
So getting on to amethyst, we have 2 cost inkable, 1/6 for Forbidden Mountain, Maleficent's Castle, which gains a passive lore. This was, I think, the first location revealed.
Absolutely.
Same thing as Neverland. It's a very basic card. Not much to talk about with this one either. The art on this is beautiful.
I agree.
And we forgot to mention the Pride Lands is a rare. Neverland is a common. Forbidden Mountain. All of the 1/6, 1/4s are commons. But it does look like the ones that are 1/6 cost 2 instead of 1.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right. And then Tiana's Place is uncommon. So the next one we have is a rare. I think, is it uncommon, rare, and
Sorcerer's Tower is uncommon.
Yeah, so it looks like each color has 1 common, 1 uncommon, 1 rare.
Okay.
So the Queen's Castle is the rare of Amethyst. It is a 4-cost inkable 1/7, which you gain 2 passive lore. And at the start of your turn, for each character you have here, you may draw a card. That I think is really good. We don't have a lot that does. I mean, we're slowly getting more, but I mean, for 1, you could put 2, 3, 4 characters there and gain 2, 3, 4 cards at the beginning of your turn.
Yeah, I think that it's an interesting card early, but that would be your 4-slot card, which means you're putting on the next turn your 1, 2, and 3 cost on it to gain 3 cards the following turn. Feels like it could be a little slow, but drawing cards is always good, so I'm sure that that's going to find its way in there. Yeah. And getting 2 passive lore doesn't hurt.
And then the next we have the 3-cost 2/7 uncommon Sorcerer's Tower as 2 abilities. So you don't give any passive lore, but that is rectified by its second ability, which we'll get to. But its first ability, Broom Closet. Your character's named Magic Broom. They move here for free, which I know is going to go
3 new ones.
I was going to say, which is going to go great in your Broom deck. And then the second one, characters gain +1 lore pip while here. So they turn for 1 extra. So you don't get the passive lore, but it does allow them to turn for 1 extra, which is still really good.
And it's fine late game when you're at 6, 7, 8 ink. You pay this down for 3 and put 2 things over there and then turn with them for 2 extra lore. So I think it's like an interesting later game card, not even necessarily in a Broom deck. Paying 2 is decently expensive, but a 7, but it's still going to take a couple of hits, and you're probably going to get a couple extra lore out of it. And for 3, I think that's probably worth it. But again, we don't know if it's too slow.
Yeah.
So Emerald, we have the 1 cost, as you had alluded to, Deville Manor, Cruella's Estate. It is a 1/4. You get 1 passive from that. Just one of the vanilla ones we were talking about. That's the common. The uncommon, and shout out to our boy Breezy, Cusco's Palace, home of the Emperor. is a 3-cost inkable 3/7, so it's a pretty expensive moving cost. When a character is challenged and banished while here, banish the challenging character. So everything gets Cusco's ability, which
Yep.
or Kitten Face ability. Either way, that's a really powerful ability, so it makes sense why you have to pay 3.
Yep.
And you're just protecting things with it. Again, feels a little slow to me, but maybe later game, just paying that extra and banishing their big pieces to kill your other big pieces. I'm not sure. I don't like the timing of this card.
Yeah, I agree.
I do like this card just because
I'm very excited for this card.
So 4-cost inkable Fang River City. It is a 2/6 with 2 passive. And surrounded by water, characters gain ward and evasive while here. That makes them nigh impossible to hit. It's that's a spicy meatball. Paying 2 to get that ability. It also gives you 2 passive lore. I think that may be one of the more powerful of all of them so far.
Yeah,
I really think it's interesting. Again, maybe it's too expensive, but it feels like a pretty good ability.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. It's a little bittersweet for me because I love my Stitch, and Stitch automatically gains ward at locations is evasive. But I mean, being able to give anything in green ward and evasive, especially, I mean, we were talking about Emerald Sapphire, and I mean, if that comes back and you ramp and you can get this out and start moving things here, if they're not playing, I mean, evasive is getting more and more difficult, and especially in draft. I mean, draft is a little bit of a slower format.
Good. I think just in general, locations are crazy good.
I agree, and I mean, these are going to be really good in stories format too because there's only so many of them, so only certain stories have locations. So
that's a good point.
This story specifically, this is Raya, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Raya is going to become a lot more prominent to play. I mean, you already had what's his name that lets you discard an item that I can't think of with the curvy sword.
Benja.
Yes, Benja. You already have Benja, who's really good for dealing with items. Now you have a way to give things ward and evasive, and if the 2 stories your opponent picked doesn't have ward and evasive, well, you just have to deal with the location before you can do anything.
I love that. That's it. I didn't even think about the fact that these for stories format. That's a really good point because this is only the first wave of them. So the next stories format, when they come out with another chunk of I don't know if they're going to do 3 every set. That seems like a lot of locations in a set. I feel like they might drop that down to 2. They were just trying to get some out right now. That's my prediction, but we'll see. I just feel like they might push characters a little more heavy. We'll see. That's a lot of things.
Yeah, I think they'll do. I don't know if they'll do a whole new gimmick next set, but I think it'll be a little like in Rise of the Floodborn. They might add like a new kind of. The next set could be focused more on like princesses or something, or like certain types of characters, because I think
that ad nauseum. Yeah,
there's so many types of characters. I mean, there's characters that have 5 different descriptors on them, so the next set could just be focusing on just giving more stuff to certain descriptors.
That's a good point.
We really don't know, but I'm very excited to see for stories format, and I think by next Tuesday, I think our goal is to have that list updated. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm going to have that updated this weekend because that is release, and I will do it this weekend, which is this weekend that this comes out, not this current weekend.
Yes. So next up for Ruby, we have the 3-cost inkable 1/5 Agrabah. I'm gonna butcher this. You want to do this one for me?
Agrabah.
That's what I was close. Agrabah. It is a 1/5 where you gain 2 passive lore, so it's a little different from the 1/4/1/6 we've seen already. It's a little more expensive, but you are getting 2 passive lore. I still don't think this one's great.
Really?
It's not. I mean, it's a solid card. I think it's slightly better, slightly worse than the other ones because the other ones you play so early. This one, it's still 1 to move. You're gaining the 2 passive, but it is a 5, and there are a lot of cards now that are deal X location or banish X location, so it's like giving it that isn't amazing. It's not terrible. I would prefer to play it over some of the 1/6/1/4s. It's just a little, again, it's like the 1/6/1/4s where it's cool. It's just not amazing.
Okay. I think that just 2 passive lore is pretty powerful on a 5, but again, Maui's the thing. That's what everybody says. Right. Oh, Maui can kill it. Maui can kill it. Yeah. Okay. Maui can kill it. Good job, guys.
Next we have the 1-cost inkable or uninkable 2/5 Jolly Roger Hook ship. I think this is my favorite from Ruby.
It's really neat.
Characters you look alive, you swabs. Characters gain rush while here, and all hands on deck. Your pirate characters move here for free, which I don't think we mentioned talking about the John Silver, just being a stupid good combo. John Silver giving resist
That card's
and
just
one lore pip.
fantastic in and of itself.
This is going to be really good. There's a lot of characters in the new set with pirate, and there's a lot in the old set, so this will pair really well. This is, I mean, I guess looking at it, this is the cheaper one drop in this color. But I think this is a really powerful one drop.
I think that giving anything rush effectively, although it costs 2 more when you play it, can do some very silly things.
Unless your pirates don't have rush, you move them there for free and give them rush.
That's true. I really love the idea of giving the 1 cost Captain Hook rush.
Yeah.
You just pay 1 and you just pop him on the Jolly Roger and he just hits something right out of the gate for 3. That's kind of a smash, but a little more complicated.
And then last but not least, we have 4-cost uninkable RLS Legacy, which is a 3/8, has 2 passive. This is our ship. Characters gain evasive while here. And then heave together. Now, if you have a character here, you may pay 2 less to move a character of yours here. So, not terrible. I think it's a little slow, like we've been talking about with some of the more expensive ones. Being 3 is a lot. Although, once you have 1 there, as long as it stays there, which with evasive it should, or if you just don't turn it.
Yeah.
And they don't have any way to just directly kill it. Paying 1 to start moving things there isn't horrid.
I agree with that, but the fact that you have to pay the 3 after already paying the uninkable 4, and you already have to have a guy in play that you want to do it to.
It's slow.
It feels really slow, and I feel your opponent could just be like, all right, I'm going to smack that a couple of times. Your guys are going to fall off, and you just spent at least 3 or 4 putting 2 guys on there for no reason. They no longer have evasive, and I'm going to punch them with my remaining guy.
Yeah.
So I will take Sapphire. The 1 cost for this is Bell's House. It is a 2/6, and if you have a character here, you pay 1 less to play items. So leaning heavy into the items as they have been with Sapphire. Very thematic as well, which is neat. I think I just don't like the paying 2. And because you got to throw something over there. What items do you need to play? It feels superfluous to me. I don't think it's necessary. It does have one of the higher prices, if that means anything right now. So maybe I'm missing something, but I don't feel impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess specifically just because I was thinking about this. I mean, this is another one of those 3-card combos, but like with the not Darkwing Duck, the purple duck that I'm now going to. I'm so bad
Magica?
Magica. I need to start watching some of these movies. We need to have like a turn for 2 movie night with me and
Bobby. And then everybody can turn in live stream Disney,
I think we'd get we'd get copyrighted so fast. With the 7-cost Magica Dispel, whenever it quests gain lore equal to the cost of one of your items, and the Scrooge's Lucky Dime.
Yeah.
Being able to have that helps you pay for that a little cheaper. The Lucky Dime being 7, you pay 6. I don't think that's amazing.
I would rather just pay the 7 for the Lucky Dime than 1 for Bell's House and 2 to move a dude on top of it.
And with the amount of ramp in blue, I agree. I don't think that's great.
So the 2-cost inkable is Montanui Island Paradise, giving Moana access to a location. Reincarnation. When a character is banished while here, you may put that card into your inkwell face down and exert it. So it effectively gives everybody Grammatala's ability.
Yep.
And I think that's really neat. Again, feels slow, but it does give you 1 passive lore, so maybe that's worth it. You'd probably just kill the Montanui and then take out the person. But maybe it's just not cost effective to do that. It's going to take you 3 turns to take out the Montanui Island Paradise when you could just be doing the damage directly to the thing you're trying to get rid of. Sure, they gain an ink. Maybe it works. I feel like it's not going to help ramp, but it's an interesting card, and I really hope that it does. I don't know if you no thoughts on that one?
Not really. I mean, I think it's I do agree though. I don't think certain players, unless like they know their opponent is trying to ramp really fast, I don't think it's going to be something people want to deal with. I think you're just going to be able to get some stuff into your inkwell. before they take care of it. Because I think a lot of the times if you're putting something there that
It
you
also
want,
says whenever a character is banished, so you could swing with your character while they're on Montanui and gain. So
yeah,
that's actually a little bit better than I thought. If you can control when it happens, which I just am now putting the pieces together that you can, that may actually be better than I'm giving it credit for.
yeah.
So the last one is a 4-cost Inkable McDuck Manor, Scrooge's Mansion. It is a 1/9 that gives you 2 passive lore. I think that's really neat. It's just a lore battery, and 9 is a lot of McDuck Manor to go through.
I'm actually in the flavor text too. It's only the coolest house in Lorcana, says Webby Vanderquack. Is interesting to me
Super rare.
because this is basically confirming McDuck Manor is in Lorcana universe, or at least this specific
Yeah,
manor.
and it's seemingly on a floating platform with walls all around it, and it's in. Is it in the sky? I can't quite
Yeah,
tell. There's mountains on the outside of it.
I'm interested. I think I've said this before, but I'd love to see like a comic book or like a video series of this whole like Lorcana lore because I
I
think
think
that'd be
yeah.
really cool. Just to have all these Disney IPs interacting together. I mean, Epic Games. I know it's a little odd to think about, but like Epic Games just struck a huge like 350 billion or $1 million deal with Disney, and they're bringing like all these IPs like Frozen and I mean obviously Marvel and Star Wars aren't in here, but they're bringing all these huge IPs into Fortnite, or at least
Oh
the
yeah,
Fortnite engine to have like this. I think it's more like this Disney Infinity vibe of like bringing all your favorite Disney characters together.
interesting.
And I'm interested to see if there's something in there that has to do with Lorcana, like a specific thing that's like, hey, here's all these places from Lorcana all shoved in here. Like, this is how they look in like the map of Lorcana. Will they do that? Probably not, but it'd be really cool to see if it was its own thing. And like,
Yeah,
I mean, Fortnite's a free game. It's not like it's behind a paywall. People can go and check it out. And, and maybe it's a little
is this? Are
story.
we? Are you trying to sell some Fortnite tickets right now?
I just want to see something with this lore. I'm very interested in the lore of Lorcana.
I'm with you on that.
So for first off with Steel, we have 2 cost, one inkable, 1/5 Maui's Plays of Exile. Characters gain resist 1 while here. I think it's a very blanket good Steel card, although there is no passive lore.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to gain resist, or if you have characters that already have resist 2, and you want to go, yeah, let me have resist 3, so I'm immune to smash. You can do that. Or if your character has no resist and you want to play like 10/10 Goofy and go, yeah, I want this Goofy to take 1 less damage.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, that makes sense. You can throw
Big
it
place,
there.
big place. Well,
Next,
that one is significantly more expensive than the other ones. For some reason, it's $11. I realize it's the rare, but I don't feel that's.
I don't.
Anybody wants my Maui Place of Exile? Give me $11. It's yours.
Yeah, I'm a little upset with this being the rare. I don't think there's a ton. I mean, obviously, we talked about we'll get to the Bayou in a second, but I don't feel like this is worthy of the rare. But I really don't think there's any that are worthy of the rare
Of the, I guess.
of the 3. And I wish there was a better Steel one. Next, we have 2 cost Inkable 1/6 Nottingham, 1 passive lore. This is the same as the Maleficent.
Yep.
And then we have the 1 cost. 1 cost, 1/3 the Bayou. Whenever a character quests while here, you may draw, then choose and discard a card, and you gain 1 passive lore.
That I used
works.
to hate until I figured out how to break it.
Yep. And between those 3, I don't think any of those are, other than, again, in that combo, I don't think any of those are really good.
This card is not good without that combo. It's a 3. Like, anything can kill this effectively and not take any damage back. So, yes, it's not worth it. So for our sort of final hurrah to say goodbye to the Rise of the Floodborn meta, we decided to do what our opinion was on the top 12 uninkable cards in the first 2 sets. And without further ado, I think we should dive right in. And my number 12 is Pinocchio Talkative Puppet.
Ooh, that is not on my list, but I
love that card. I used it to great effect because nobody is expecting it. Cost 2, and you get to exert something when it comes into play and just interact with things that people were not expecting you to do. It's not a full 4 of kind of a card, so maybe that means it may or may not deserve a slot on here, but in my opinion, it was just a really solid card, underrated, and my number 12.
Yeah, my number 12 is going to be Snow White Well-Wisher. I
Love that
really like
card.
this card. I think it's great. I don't think it's again. I don't think it's a 4 of in every deck. It's like the yellow Hades, which is my honorable mention to go along with this, because yellow Hades was super strong in set one. This was decent in set two and was played in a couple decks, but it wasn't super popular. But I think when it was played in the decks, it was played. It was very effective as a card.
Fair. What's your 11?
My 11. Ooh, this was a tough one for me because I was debating between. It was more of how these cards impacted the meta at the time is kind of how I ranked this.
Sure.
So my number 11 is Let the Storm Rage On. I did come around to
Mm.
this card.
Oh, look at
And
you. I'm so proud of you.
I think it's a blanket good card. I don't think anything popped out to me as this being amazing, like, you know, as some of the other songs are on my list. But I do
Ooh.
think this is real. This is a really good card that is a 4 of, or at least a 3 of in most decks.
Okay. I respect that. My 11th place is Cusco, the
Ooh.
green Cusco, 5 cost Cusco. What is it? Temperamental Emperor or whatever.
Yeah.
I love that card. It's a lot of fun to play. When you put it down, people are like, oh, damn it, what am I going to do against this stupid card? It's got wards. You can't just, burn it down. You have to attack into it to take it out. And it takes whatever you attack it with out as well. And it's just a really solid card. A lot of fun to play. I realized it kind of lost favor for a while towards the end there, but it picked back up in Lemon Line. And I think that there's always going to be room for that card.
Yeah, I agree with you. So what is your number 10?
My number 10 is Arthur.
That is also my number 10.
Nice. I loved Arthur. I don't think it was quite as powerful as I originally thought it was because it is just a skosh slow. But there's going to be some more cards that, as we see, are going to end up just breaking it wide open. It's a lot of fun to bounce things and get them back if they're damaged, or to turn with that other card that may just need to get off the field. You can use it to ink or something like that. There's just a lot of options with it. But a 1/3 dies a little bit too easy. That's my only downside about that card.
Yeah, I liked it. I think we both were very excited about it when it originally came out, and I still think it's a good card. I just think it has its place in certain decks. It just didn't do as well as a lot of people thought it was going to, and that's why it ended up being as low as it was on both of our lists.
What's your 9?
My number 9 is actually the Cusco.
Oh wow!
Mostly because I was very big on it in set 1. So there are a couple of cards on here that I was very big on in set 1 that are in here, like my next one will be. I just think that card was really powerful in set 1.
Just a little bit better than I thought it was.
Just a little bit better than you thought it was.
You are never, ever, ever going to guess what my 9 is.
Is your 9 Lilo?
My 9 is Elsa, my girl
Elsa. Wow.
Oh, I love her so much. But it's just 8 is a lot for that ability. Yeah. Shifting her into play is really cool. You can win games by just locking people out and then getting that extra turn for 3 at the end. So it does a lot of fun things. I think it's a powerful card. The Enchanted is the benchmark for Enchanted. It is fantastic. I don't think I've ever seen one in person, but in my brain, it's beautiful. I have 16 packs looking at me. Maybe I could open one and get it on stream. Either way, it's just not good enough to make it up higher on the list. I wish it was, but I did change her ranking multiple times and she landed on 9.
So my number 8 is actually the Elsa.
Oh.
I think it's I agree with everything you said. I'm shocked it got less play in set 2 than I thought it would.
Yeah.
But it just didn't. It was very good when it was popular. It's the same thing with that, and I'm actually going to jump quickly into my numbers. Did you give your number 8?
I didn't give my number 8. Did you give your number 9?
Did I not give my number 9? I thought I gave my number 9. Oh, well then
switch it up.
That was my number 9. Sorry.
I don't know. The people who are listening to this will know, but I do not recall. That was seconds ago.
My number 9. Then my number 8 would be Genie on the Job.
Okay, Genie on the Job. That's a cool pick.
That was one of my favorite cards from set 2 or set 1, and I think that actually just started to come back, at least for me, in my Green Fossa deck.
I love that card. It was my 13, so it did not make the list for me.
I wish I had the Enchanted of it because it's beautiful, but it's just an amazing card that I hope we'll see more play as time goes on.
Concur. So my number 8 then is Ursula, the
Ooh.
7 cost. I started using that a lot towards the end, and I really, really love just plucking one lore and then drawing a card is like 2 slaps in the face against your opponent. It feels really nice. And then it's a 2/8 that turns for 3. It just does a lot of good things. 7 cost on Inkable is a little scary, but people play Be Prepared. So,
Yeah.
Fun fact, since we'll just get that out of the bag. We both agreed that Be Prepared is the number 1, so we
Yes.
eliminated that because it's hard to argue against that as being the best uninkable card. It's just, it has entire decks revolve around it.
I did jokingly try to argue out of it.
Yeah, but it didn't work. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's just a spoiler alert. That's not going to be on our list. So now you can tell me what your 7 is.
So my number 7 is Whole New World. I love this card. I don't love it. I know we both have a love-hate relationship. Our first episode is named after it.
Yes.
I think it's going to get very good in the next set.
Yes.
But for the first 2 sets, aside from when Steel Song played it a little bit, I don't think it lived up to its hype. It was played a little bit here and there, but it was never as popular as a lot of people thought it was originally, and it never really stayed there. I do think if we do this again at the end of set 3, it will be a little higher on our list, at least of what we thought was the most popular and what did the best in set 3.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. We'll talk about that, but my 7 is Merlin Rabbit.
Ooh.
Originally was not big on this card because it's uninkable, but I just have watched it be bounced so many times, and the card advantage you get off of it you can't deny. So I ended up just getting rid of other uninkable slots to fit rabbits in my decks now because it's solid. It's a good card. I can't argue with it. I originally was trying to be like, it's uninkable, but it's just a good card.
Yeah, so my 6, right?
Yeah, what's your 6?
So my 6 is going to be Lantern.
Lantern
was a very powerful card, I think, in set 2. And even in set 1, being able to pay 2 early game, especially some decks, would get 3 out when they could. Yeah. Being able to pay 1 less for each character, especially with cards like the Mickey Mouse and the Doc that were letting you pay, being able to get Mufasa's out and stuff like that on turn 4, or even on turn 3 if you could set up really fast. Like, it was just a very powerful card, and I think it did a lot to help accelerate and do good for certain decks. So that's why that's at my 6.
I liked playing that card when you play it on turn 3 and you play 2 2-cost cards. So one card you play is the Lantern, and then the other one is a 2-cost card. That's my favorite time to play that. But yeah, I agree. That's a solid card. My number 6 is Hades, Lord of the Underworld, the yellow one. Love that card. Everybody knows I love that card. I've been using that card in pretty much 4-ofs only in every Amber deck I've ever made. Very rarely without it. It's just solid. It comes into play. It's a 3/2. That's enough to kill something. But you're also getting something back from the discard pile. And I believe that's one of, you said Well Wisher. I think it's one of those. Those two are the only ones that do that. So pretty solid ability. And it's on play. So as soon as it comes to play, you can do it. You can even ink that thing if you want to. You can do some pretty silly plays with it. I like resurrecting Mufasa's. That feels nice. Too bad it didn't happen in the movie. So with that beautiful segue, I'll move on to my 5th. So my 5 slot is Mickey Mouse Detective.
Ooh.
I really love Pooh, but this is still just a very good card. That on entry makes a big difference. Just doing it and getting your extra card into the inkwell. Yeah, it's exerted, and that's one of my complaints about that card, but it's just solid value, and I don't mind playing it most times. And it also feels good to just get rid of it with a fishbone quill.
Yeah. My number 5, I know you're going to be a little shocked by this because it wasn't my number 1, is Scar Vicious Chicken.
Lies.
I know this probably isn't on your list, but I really liked this card. I really hope it sees more play.
Because it was on my list, but I crossed it off.
I remember originally not being a huge fan of this card, and the more I play it, the more I think this card is really good, and I think it will hopefully see more play. Just being able to be a 6/5 with Rush and banish something and then ready it and banish something again is really good.
Yeah, it's powerful. I can't argue with that.
It's just a very powerful card to me, and
I can't actually remember a time where you didn't love that card. Like obsessed with that
I
card.
know. I remember when we did the set review, I was originally not a huge
Yes,
fan of
I
that
agree
card.
with that as well. But you
But then
picked
I then I
her up
then I put it
quick.
in a deck, and I was like, "Oh, this is so good."
You did
What's
do
your
a lot
number
of fun
five?
things with it. That was my number
Oh,
five.
that
Was
was your
maybe
number
not
five.
quite yet. My number four is a card you spoke of earlier, and that is Let the Storm Rage On.
Oh
Love that
wow.
card so much. I told you from the beginning. You're like, oh, it's just because it's frozen, and I'm like, oh, that's just a bonus. And it turns out card's really good. Singing it does not feel bad pretty much ever. 2 damage, yeah, falls a little flat, but drawing a card makes up for it immensely. I think it's just a solid value. My three is my girl, Lady Tremaine. Love that card and hate that card.
Can I give you my four first?
Sure.
My four was Lilo making a wish.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
as
I'm
high up as
sorry.
that is, and as concerning as that may sound, I think this card was one of the most impactful one drops of set one,
For sure.
hands down. And I know how much you loved me playing this and then Simba and turning for two the following turn.
You still did that on into set two, so I agree with the power
And
level
with a
there.
lot of aggro decks going back to Arthur, this along with the Maleficent, which I tied into one because it's essentially
Yep.
the same thing in two different colors.
Agreed.
Those were two uber powerful cards that
Yeah.
impacted a lot of set one in set two. And yes, my number three, I am with you on this. Is all I think I'm almost certain our top three. Well, I know our one is the same and our three is the same. I'm almost guaranteeing our second is the same.
Interesting. All right. Well, you are very confident in that, but apparently three we share is Lady Tremaine.
Yes.
So sorry to interrupt. You're right. Lilo and Maleficent were on my list, but did not even make it on the top 12. I think they're really powerful. I agree with you, but there's more and more things that you want to play at the one slot that we learned towards the end. But there's certain decks that they're very silly. But going back to Lady Tremaine, I was talking about my love-hate relationship for that card. I love playing it against people. I hate having it played against me. That's what all there is to it. It is mean. It's a very mean card. It's what effectively makes Ruby Amethyst, because all you do is you do your Be Prepared. They're like, oh, I put one thing out. You're like, well, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's just too powerful. It gets around so many mechanics. Cheating it into play when you play the shift target, which I get is not great, but still that feels insane. Playing a Tremaine on a Tremaine to do other silly things to make people lose their second card. I did that when I've been at 10 and had two Tremaines in hand. That's silly. It's just a powerful card.
Yeah.
All right, so then our number two, you're sure is the same.
I'm 90% sure.
That's pretty sure. What's your number two?
Hades Infernal Schemer.
That is not my number two.
That didn't even make your list?
Did I say it didn't make my list?
Well, if our number one is Be Prepared.
No, number one is Be Prepared, yes, but that was not on the list, so then you were not following instructions.
Oh, then I definitely, yeah, you're right. I did not.
So the card that you definitely missed and is my number two is Grab Your Sword.
That was on my list.
Silly. Wipe boards with it, sing it, draw one after playing one off the top of the deck to end up winning a game like I did last week. Feels delicioso. It is so nice. I was not big on this card until maybe the past month or so, but it's so flappin' powerful. And now we can agree that the number one, or technically number two most powerful card is Hades Infernal Schemer. I'm with you on that. Love that card. Have always loved that card. It's going up a little bit down in value, but it's always just been a solid staple Sapphire card. And just doing Let It Go on a stick with a 3/6 that turns for 2. Yep. Yeah. Yes, please. Where do I sign?
You didn't want to put, the number one, all the great uninkables like Perplexing Signposts and Sorcerer's Spellbook and Binding Contract.
Yeah, they didn't quite make my list, but I will tell you the ones that I crossed off that didn't make the list super quick. Lilo and Maleficent did not make the list. Because I had 20 to start and I only had to get rid of 8. Right. And Lilo and Maleficent counts as one. Just in Time didn't make the list. Love that.
Just in Time also didn't make my list, and that was originally on my list.
A lot of fun. Lantern did not make my list. It's good, but not great in my opinion. Sorcerer's Spellbook was huge and integral in a lot of.
I had that tied with Sleepy's Flute as like a kind of.
Yep, I crossed out
Neither
Flute
of
as well.
those make that list.
Genie was my 13. That was my
Yeah.
last one that I was deciding between. I love that. Scar, as you had said. Dragonfire, because I
Yep.
mean that really fell off. It was so oppressive in the beginning. And I think
Yeah.
it'll always be a presence in certain things, but again, just didn't make it. And of course, Whole New World did not make the list. That was my 15, to be fair.
Mother Knows Best was one that I had on my list that I think was played a
Oh,
lot in
that's
set
a good
one.
one. I agree with that.
But I agree with that as being the same as Dragonfire, where it fell off hard in set two.
Yeah,
And
people
it's
just
like
really using it.
there were certain cards like the Kuzco, because it was so impactful along with the Lilo in set one, that it's like the Kuzco fell off a little, but the Lilo was still around. But
Yeah,
like
it's kind of
these
fun for him
these
being.
basically fell off to the point where it's like you really never see these in decks anymore, other than like very fringe.
I also feel like if Emerald was more popular, there was barely any Emerald decks. Perhaps we would have
Yeah, I
seen a little more
agree.
Mother Knows Best. But that is 4 months of Turn for Two, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to every episode. If you hadn't, go back and do it. That would be nice.
Yeah.
We'd love that. But thank you so much for listening. We are super excited for our next episode. We're going to be talking about our new decks that we're building. We will go to do some drafting. We are going to dive deep into the Inklands, and I'm very excited for it.
And with that, we will see you guys next week. Thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks.